It's not every show that gets a presidential endorsement. Mr. Biden, tell us what you think about the Brad and John show.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
It could have been worse. He might have tried to bite Brad on the knee. Now it's back to Brad and John on the BJ show.
Not necessarily speaking about Joe Biden, but how soon the press forgets. Have you seen this controversy about the deal with Dr. Biden going and vote yesterday, John? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't seen this. I missed it.
She's being, my mom, you talk about hubbub. Another one of why my words my mom loved all the time was lambasted. She's being lambasted because she wore a bright red dress.
So she's not supposed to wear a Republican color?
Well, but see, to me, once again, this is where our press corps has devolved into the point where it's like, okay, and I read a couple different reads on this that like she was essentially giving the middle finger to the American public because what have they done with her husband? They pushed her, or not necessarily to the American public, to the Democratic Party because they pushed her out. They pushed him out of the election, and he wanted to run for a second term, and they essentially, stabbed him in the back. So she shows up at the election with a red dress on when she should have been wearing a Democratic blue dress. I'm going like, okay, whatever.
I know. And to think the whole time we thought that just Joe was the one that wanted Kamala to go down, but maybe it was Jill all along.
Once again, let's go back to June 1st, okay? Today is November 6th, so June, July, August, September, October, November. What is this, 6 months? We're talking 6 months in right now?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
it's 5 months.
5 months, okay. 5 months in. What a period piece of history there is in the past 5 months. Is it crazy or what? When you look at all the stuff that happened,
Trump assassination attempt?
2 of them, yeah.
2 of them, and 2 of them.
By the way, I won't say who this is, but out of the clear blue, somebody that I know launched into me and said to me, and I was like, I think my jaw hit my chest when this person, I won't say who it was, but they launched into me and said, that whole thing was fake. He wasn't really shot. There wasn't really a sniper. That was done on purpose. That was all staged. And I'm going like, okay, I don't think that's quite the right way because of the fact that one man, a innocent observer was killed and 2 other men were, critically injured by the rifle shots. I mean, there's a picture. Remember the one picture? The one reporter has the picture and you can actually see the bullet in the air. Remember that one?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, did you ask this person about the moon landing too?
Yes, right. Wag the dog, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm just going like, and this is a very intelligent person. I'm going like, I don't believe I'm hearing this. And they talked about, well, nobody bleeds that fast. And I go, well, where did the blood come from? Well, the blood came from the fact that when the Secret Service agent pushed him down on the ground, they injured his head. I'm going, okay, whatever.
I heard that he was going to the STLexpo.com and he just cut his hand on a display sign.
John, I said this before I went in here. You brought it up, John. I'm still bleeding here in the studio. Shelley Barr, who last time we used our roll-up signs, we had our Westplex 101, 107 sign, and a gust of wind hit it, and the thing got screwed up. It's one of these spring-loaded signs. You've seen the conventions. You pull it up. It's sort of like an upside-down window shade, and it's got, it's like 6 feet tall, the whole bit. It got screwed up. So before I went on the air this morning, I'm here in the studio with my screw gun, disassembling it, and I took off one of the plates off the side of it, and things spun around and chopped the daylights out of my hand. I'm still bleeding. I don't know what it is. Maybe this is old age when your blood gets thin or stuff like that. God, when I cut myself, I bleed all over the place. Matter of fact, what's interesting about it is my first aid kit here at the radio station, I should clean it off because down the front, it's bolted to the wall. It's one of those the first aid kits. It's on the wall. OSHA, listen, I do have a first aid kit here, so when you come, and I do have fire extinguishers, Mr. Fire Inspector dude, so I'm complying with a couple laws at least. There's still blood stains on my first aid kit from when the last time I cut myself, and I'm going to the first aid kit, and I bled down the front of the first aid kit and actually bled inside of the first aid kit. So nobody else here at the station could use it because I've contaminated the first aid kit. I really need to replace it. Because
I saw that, and you know what? What you told me off the air was that was from covering a Lucas Kuntz event.
Yes.
And I think the problem was at that event, for once, Brad, you weren't wearing your pink safety vest that you usually wear to these type of events. And I think Lucas and Adam Kinzinger and whatever other cucks were hanging around posing with Lucas Kuntz in an extra medium T-shirt, they didn't see you because you didn't have your pink vest on.
You're not going to let that go, are you?
I'm not.
Okay. The one interesting thing, and once again, I say this as a business owner, okay? Was it Proposition A or Amendment A? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Proposition A. Start giving people some sick time, Brad.
Okay. Here we go. And I'm not ragging on the union guys because we just went through this with the automotive guys. There's a lot of people out in St. Charles County work at the GM plant out in Wentzville, okay? And there's a lot of people, although the strike didn't center on the unions here in St. Louis with Boeing, it was primarily the commercial aircraft division, which we don't have here in St. Louis. We've got the defense division, at least part of the defense division, but the commercial aircraft industry out in the West Coast where they're building those 37s, I don't think they're doing 57s anymore, but I think they're doing 787s. Okay. They have voted for a new pact, a new union agreement where they're going to get a 38% raise, okay? The problem with that is that you as Joe Citizen saying like, okay, good for those machinist guys, good for those automotive guys. Then you go to buy a car or you go to fly somewhere and you realize that what used to be able to buy relatively inexpensively is now out of sight. There's a website or a Facebook page, not a Facebook page, a YouTube channel I watch all the time. And this guy recently did a video on the only under $20,000 car that's still available. Matter of fact, it's interesting. After he put the video up, a listener or a viewer commented there were two of them. He said there was only one. The Mitsubishi Mirage is the only new car that lists an MSRP under $20,000. And actually, there's two of them, the Nissan Sentra, okay? Or the Versa. I read the other day the average price of a new car now. Average price of a new car is $47,000.
Yeah,
okay?
I could believe it.
I personally went to a Ford dealer. Today's Wednesday. I went to a Ford dealer on Monday, okay? I'm looking at maybe buying a smaller truck. And I've always had the full-size trucks. And I want to compliment this guy. The guy's name is Nathan Sisco, S-I-S-C-O, sales guy at Westport Ford right out there at Lindbergh and Page, okay? The Ford Maverick. Are you familiar with what the Ford Maverick is?
I'm not, no.
The Ford Maverick it used to be a car years ago, back in the 70s, Ford having the Maverick, which was a little two-door Econobox. The Ford Maverick is a small pickup truck that's very similar to what they call the Honda Ridgeline, or I think it's the Hyundai has what they call the Santa Cruz. And it's interesting in the respect, it's a smaller truck, but it's a unibody truck, and most trucks are body on frame, but it's unibody, and it doesn't have the bed separate than the cab, and it's smaller and it gets great gas mileage. They came out with this, I want to say just 2 years ago, and the starting price on it was $19,999, okay? I'm looking online, and it shows that base version of the truck, the XL, is $23,600. I go to him, and he tells me you can't touch one for under $28,000. Just can't touch one. And I go, what kind of deal can you cut me? He says, none. He says, we get every one we sell. And I go, really? And they're so hot right now. Now, here's the interesting part of it. Part of it is they have a couple different versions. The base version is a little four-cylinder, gets great gas mileage. Then they have a hybrid. And he says the hybrid is very popular because of the fact that, once again, there's this whole thing with the electric range anxiety that people are afraid, if you get an electric vehicle. But then I said, how are the Ford Lightning selling? And you know what he tells me?
What's that?
Ford Lightning is the full-size F-150 that's all electric. He says, we haven't had one in a year. He says, the last one we had in the lot was a 2023. I said, you've had no 2024s in the lot? And he goes, no. I go, why is that? He says, we don't want them. And I said to him, why is that? And he says, because they don't sell. He says, we can't sell the damn things. Now, once again, here we go. And here's the problem. And I'm going to throw this and it's, I'll tell you a funny story. You know who the CEO of Ford is?
No, I don't.
His last name is Farley. Does that name ring a bell?
Oh, yeah. Is it Chris Farley's brother?
It's Chris Farley's cousin, okay?
Cousin, okay.
And-
We've talked about this before.
Right.
I didn't know that until you told me it.
Right. I told the smartest woman in the world, and at first she didn't believe me. And then she goes and looks at a picture. I can't remember his name. Is it Jim Farley? I can't remember his name. And they look very similar. I mean, he's not as heavy as Chris Farley, okay? Mr. Farley, we call him Mr. Farley from Ford, has complained about the fact that the government is forcing them, not necessarily showing up at their building and saying, you better build these cars or these electric vehicles or we're going to shut you down. But there are certain things the government can do to you. You know what I'm talking about. Say, hey, we don't think this is...
Oh, yeah. By regulation, they force you into a certain behavior.
Exactly, and that's what's gotten with this. They are forced into making these Lightning pickup trucks, which they're losing 5 figures on. I think he said that the only 2 all-electric vehicles that Ford's makes are the Lightning, which is the pickup truck, and the Mach-E, which is the 4-door version of the Mustang, which is really not a 4-door version of the Mustang, but both of those are all electric. They lose $40,000 to $50,000 on each one. The problem is, instead of gearing up production for these vehicles they can't sell, they should be manufacturing the Mavericks where they can sell the daylights out of them, because most Ford dealerships, if you go there, there's none on the lot. Most of the time, they're sold before they hit the lot. So what does that tell you? People still want, like in this case, a small truck, gets good gas mileage. And he says the hybrid version is very, very, very popular, and interestingly enough, it's not that much more than the base model. Once you get into the higher trim levels, obviously it goes up like that. But once again, to me, it's like, okay, here we go again. The government messing with the capitalistic system. Okay, if they can make a bunch of these Mavericks and sell every single one, and more importantly, sell them for sticker, which means that Ford's making money because they're not having to offer any discounts or any special financing. The dealers are making more money because of the fact that they're not, dickering on the sticker price. The sales guys are making more money. To me, everybody should be happy, right?
I don't know. It sounds like the states need to put more regulations in place. Now that we know that we can't turn to the federal government for sound climate change policy anymore, regrettably, I guess it's going to be up to states to mandate regulations where people need to consider the environment, Brad, and buy more environmentally friendly cars. Maybe something a little more carbon neutral.
Right. Like a bicycle, right?
Yeah, like maybe a bicycle, or I don't know, like a moped that runs on, discarded grease from your local greasy spoon.
Well, I go back to, and you talk about me. Matter of fact, Trump has a term for this. He calls it weaving. I go back to my original point that I made with you like maybe 4 minutes ago when I talked about what Proposition A. The problem with this is that once again, you're now going to have all the fast food places which are going to be forced to pay $15 an hour, okay? And guess what? Your price of your meals is going to go up. You already...
And they're going to be employing fewer neighborhood kids because they can't afford to pay them.
Exactly, and that's the whole point. Just like we've talked about the McDonald's that I used to go to all the time right there at Mid-Rivers and 364 in front of the Deerbergs, in front of the Target right there in St. Peter's. You go in, there's no counter anymore. The only way you can order is the kiosk inside. And interestingly enough, I went recently to a Steak and Shake. I hadn't been to Steak and Shake in a long time. I was cutting through on Hampton, coming from 44 up to 40, and there's the Steak and Shake on Hampton, just maybe about a quarter mile south of 40 in Forest Park. I stopped in there last week. Once again, there's a dining room, but there's no dining room service anymore. There's nobody at the counter.
You're kidding. I know that Steak and Shake. Well, you got to be kidding me.
No.
It's like a fast casual, but with no service?
Yeah, there's 4 kiosks, and you walk in the door, and to the left there's 4, they're not really kiosks, but they're just 4, they're on stands. It's like a computer stand, and it's just like a vertical monitor kind of thing, like the ones at McDonald's, but they're not as big as the ones at McDonald's. And that's it. You punch, you pay for it, and no cash. At least I didn't see. Everything was all credit card. And so in other words, if you want to eat inside, you can still do that. But what they have another window where they call your number and you pick up your food and you walk it over to your table. No waiter or waiter service. Nobody at the counter. You can't sit at the counter. The counter's gone because they've completely redone the restaurant inside. Once again, they're running it with less people because of the fact they're having to pay more per hour. So once again, the part of this isn't there like a point where people will go like, okay, this is the economics. this is so frustrating to me. When you talk to someone who's never run a business before, they have no idea what that this does. They assume that everybody who goes into business, they open up a business, they're a shrub shingle, whatever their business is, and a year later they're driving a Mercedes. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, he owns a business. They don't realize what's involved in all the expenses and things like that. I told you, me being a business owner for 40 years now, I go anywhere. I look around and think to myself, okay, what did it cost to build this place? $2-3 million. I wonder what their electric bill is. Sometimes I'll even ask if I'm manager. I go, I'm going to ask you a dumb question. What's your electric bill? I had one guy tell me in one of the restaurants I was at, not going to say one, his electric bill was $4,800 a month. Now,
holy cow! He didn't plug into the Ameren Center out in O'Fallon.
No, he didn't.
You tried to sell him an extension cord, and folks can get a 14-mile-long extension cord if you go to the St. Louis Expo today, which, by the way, advertises on Westplex 107.1, and you get the Brad Hildebrand special. You can get a long extension cord, and you can plug into the Ameren solar farm.
Right.
Brad will give you one. It's an invisible extension cord. Just trust Brad. It totally works.
John.
And he'll be able to segregate that bit of energy from the grid from all the other dirty fossil fuel energy. Just ask Brad for it. It's a Brad Hildebrand special.
John, can I ask you a favor?
Please.
You're good at this. Because I'm not that I won't do it myself, but I think you'd probably have better luck. Can you call Ameren UE and get a spokesperson on? I want to talk to a spokesperson, ask him these questions.
And yeah, if you really want to get in one and you want to have a real conversation with one, I would be happy to set that up.
No, I'm serious. I mean, serious, because of the fact that we go back to John and I talked about this. Remember I think you had the press release where they talked about they were expanding their solar farm. What was it, down in New Florence, Missouri or something like that? Someplace along I-70. And they had a deal where they said, if you pay $10 a month more, you get the solar power at your house. And I'm going like, that is BS, because
that would be like charging people on this show, be like, for an extra $10 membership a month, you'll get the super high frequency volume super mega mix by Brad Hildebrand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Sprinkled with pixie dust.
Right. Our normal broadcast band only goes up to 10 kilohertz, but if you pay another $10 a month, we'll run it up to 15 kilohertz, which we do anyway, but we just won't tell people that. You know what I mean? It's just, hey, well, Brad and John said if I pay $10 a month, I get that extra 5 kilohertz of top-end sound. I want that sound because I can still hear those. My tweeters want to tweet that sound out. I want to pay for God.
Oh, it's incredible. Just join our Patreon, and for $10 more, you can get it.
Will you literally, I mean, do you have like a buddy that works there or something like that? You know all these people, right?
I have former coworkers who I worked with who were at Ameren.
Oh, would you call one of them and warn him that I'm going to essentially ask him all sorts of nosy questions like, okay, explain this to me. You know what I mean?
Honestly, Brad, I think I'm going to sleep on it before I call that favor in. I got to be honest with you.
Okay, we have to take a break. So in other words, you're afraid that your friends will become non-friends after I get done with them, right?
Well, before you got to check people's level of, Hildebrand tolerance. I got to sleep on that, Brad.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?